I urge you to oppose the vaccine mandate or decree which the current occupant of the White House has issued. I urge you to oppose the vaccine decree to protect the constitutional rights of your fellow citizens in the military that the vaccine decree violates. In January 2022, I speak to all citizens of the United States residing in the state of Utah. Vaccine decree is a clearer and more accurate label than vaccine mandate. The vaccine decree says that people must either be vaccinated against COVID-19 or must submit to weekly testing to see if they have become infected with COVID-19. Below, when I use the word Constitution, I mean the U.S. Constitution. The vaccine decree violates the U.S. Constitution. I am publishing this video on the Warren Rogers channel, which is the channel that I use to campaign as a candidate for a public office. This character, Mr. President, represents not just the current occupant of the White House, but also U.S. presidents before and after him. My neighbor, Terry Ferris, as he has done previously on the Dutiful Citizen channel, lends his voice to someone else so that that person might speak to you. In this video, Brother Ferris provides a voice for Mr. President. My cousin, David Choles, as he has done various times on the Dutiful Citizen channel, reads quotes to you. In this video, Cousin David reads from the U.S. Constitution. In the Constitution, the powers of the President and the powers of Congress are listed. So, what in the Constitution might any occupant of the White House cite to show that he does have the power to impose a vaccine decree on military personnel?
I will protect our military personnel from the virus with a vaccine mandate.
Generations ago, when the Constitution was ratified, the people of the United States did not want a president powerful enough that he could solve every problem by force. Citizens back then were wise enough to realize that whatever powers they delegated to their president, sooner or later, by some president or other, would be abused. Therefore, they decided what problems they wanted their president to solve and delegated only the powers they thought he would need to solve those problems, leaving other problems for other people to solve and leaving many problems to be solved by means other than political power.
If you are implying that I do not have the power to issue orders to soldiers, you are wrong. After all, the Constitution says that
the President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States. U.S. Constitution, Article 2, Section 2.
In the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8 is one long sentence that we can understand by noticing that it has the following simple structure. The Congress shall have power to do thing 1, to do thing 2, and so on until finally we reach a period at the very end of the section.
The Congress shall have power to raise and support armies, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8.
So we see that the power of the Commander-in-Chief has limits. Congress provides the President with an army and a navy that he can command. The orders that soldiers and sailors receive through the chain of command that starts with the Commander-in-Chief are orders to particular units or persons that apply to particular situations, such as, go to Fort Benning by 5 p.m. Thursday and report for duty to its commander. Reporting for duty. At 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, patrol around the base. Congress makes the more general rules. No person can be in the armed forces if he has not been vaccinated is a general rule. If that is not for Congress to decide, then what does it mean to say that Congress shall have power to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces?
So Congress will pass a law that requires soldiers, sailors, guardsmen, etc. to be vaccinated.
Congress has the power to make federal laws to some extent. But the Constitution grants to Congress only limited power to make federal laws.
All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States. U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, emphasis added.
Article 1, Section 1 provides that those legislative or law-making powers that the Constitution does grant, it grants to Congress. You brought up the subject of the National Guard. Let's look at the National Guard website, as that website appears in January 2022. We are looking now at a website. NationalGuard.mil is the official website of the U.S. National Guard. We recognize December 13th as the official birthday of the National Guard. On this date in 1636, the first militia— is it my imagination? Or is this the word militia? Is it my imagination? Or does the National Guard itself tell the public that it is the modern form of the historical militia? On this date in 1636, the first militia regiments in North America were organized in Massachusetts. Skipping down, the birth of the nation's oldest organized units is symbolic of the founding of all the state, territory, and District of Columbia militias that collectively make up today's National Guard. Here we see the express claim that state, territory, and District of Columbia militias make up today's National Guard. However, as you can see in this menu, the National Guard includes both the Army National Guard and the Air National Guard. It might seem strange to some people to claim that the Air National Guard is the modern form of the historical militia, when there were no airplanes before the 20th century. Down here we see it also suggests how citizen soldiers have adapted our nation's venerable militia institutions to the demands of high-technology air warfare in the late 20th century. So we even see wording that associates the Air National Guard with our nation's venerable militia institutions. Here we see the term citizen soldier. Historically, the term militia referred to the residents of a town, county, etc., formally organized into at least a sort of military unit to help them defend their community, and to prepare in advance for such defense because some crisis or other was bound to happen eventually. In early America, people assumed that all citizens able to bear arms were obligated to defend their community when their community was in danger. So every community should have its own local militia unit. The militia was a public institution, expressly provided for in public documents such as constitutions and laws, with the understanding that citizens defending their own town, county, etc. is what militia meant historically. We are back on the About page of the Air National Guard. This is the emblem or seal of the Air National Guard. These graphics look like single-engine jet aircraft capable of flying at supersonic speed. Their inclusion in the emblem of the Air National Guard is not surprising. However, between them we see a man dressed in clothing that causes us to imagine a period centuries earlier. The man holds a long gun that in the late 1700s would most likely have been a musket. Especially interesting is the plow that the armed man stands in front of. In that period, most citizens of the United States were farmers. This is a civilian man who just abandoned his plow, grabbed his gun, and is ready to fight. This emblem associates the modern Air National Guard with our venerable militia institutions. In the upper left corner, the emblem we saw before is repeated, the emblem of the National Guard. The National Guard emblem includes the same image of a militiaman that we saw in the emblem of the Air National Guard, thus visually associating the whole National Guard with our venerable militia institutions.
The Congress shall have power to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8.
If it is true that the National Guard is the modern version of the militia, then the National Guard can only be called into the service of the United States for one of three specific purposes: enforcing federal laws, suppressing insurrection, and repelling invasion. The Constitution does not allow the federal government to treat the militia as a reserve force that the federal government can activate for whatever purpose it wishes, such as pursuing some foreign policy goal in a distant land. The militia might not be serving the United States for quite some time.
The National Guard website clearly shows that the Army National Guard is a reserve component of the Army, and the Air National Guard is a reserve component of the Air Force.
The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States, and of the militia of the several states, when called into the actual service of the United States. U.S. Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, emphasis added.
The National Guard claims to be the militia, but the Constitution makes the President Commander-in-Chief of the militia only when the militia serves the United States. Congress has a similar limitation.
The Congress shall have power to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, emphasis added.
Thus, while the militia or National Guard is not serving the United States for one of only three allowed purposes, the Congress does not have the power to govern the militia, and the President is not the Commander-in-Chief over the militia. Therefore, at such times, neither the Congress nor the President can force the militia to get vaccinated. When guardsmen attend to their duties as guardsmen, usually what they're doing is training. Training does not count as being in the service of the United States because according to Article 1, Section 8, each state is responsible for training its militia. Militia training is not a role for the federal government. As for the Army and Navy, as shown above, forcing them to get vaccinated requires an act of Congress. In this episode, we did not have time to cover such important topics as: why do I call it vaccine decree? Does the President have the authority to impose a vaccine decree on civilians? What should we as citizens do to oppose the vaccine decree? And what is my candidate status? In the future, I will cover all these topics. This has been Warren Rogers Channel, Episode 10, Military Vaccine Decree Unconstitutional.